Just 1 week left until Nefer's release patch 6.1 goes live on October 22. The first beta is behind us, and during all that time, Nefer hasn't received any changes. I'm Lily as always, and today we'll talk about what this new Dendro Catalyst user is all about. So if you're planning to try pulling her good luck, and enjoy the video. On your screens now is the full level up table up to 90 or even 100. But we're not here just for the numbers. What truly matters is the moment of ascension. When Nefer ascends from level 80 to 80+, she gains an additional 38.4% crit damage, which simplifies gearing and opens new build options. Now, let's walk through the resources you'll need for leveling her. First and foremost, Dendro Ascension Stones. These are usually not hard to get. Next up are the materials from the New World boss, which will only be available starting with patch 6.1, so you can't farm them ahead of time. For the rest of the materials, things are easier. You'll need crystals, the same ones used to ascend Lauma. You can find them in the same locations if you already farmed Lauma, you know where to look. And finally, Fatus mandates, those familiar charms many of you know. You can't skip them. They're required for ascending her talents, so it's worth stockpiling them in advance so you don't get stalled post-launch. Once all the necessary resources are gathered, we move on to talents. To level her talents, Nefer uses the Arae books dropped in the region's domain. If you want to get a head start, check which days the domain is open, and begin collecting them even before she launches. Let's break down Nefer's skills and how her damage works. We start with her normal attack. At first glance, it seems unremarkable standard Catalyst swings with Dendro infusion. But the real strength of Nefer isn't here. It lies in how she uses her charged attacks and elemental skill. When using a charged attack, Nefer enters a special state called Gliding Serpent. In this state, she moves significantly faster, and her attacks gain additional effects that become crucial when she uses her elemental skill. The elemental skill allows her to absorb Dendro cores created via the bloom reaction, those buds. When Nefer absorbs a core, she amplifies her damage, scaling off her elemental mastery and attack. In this state, her charged attacks transform into a unique version, an empowered charged form that can deal enhanced damage. To activate this form, she needs at least 1 unit of green dew, or whatever the localized term is, so you'll need to maintain that effect. The Shadow Strike, or Strike of Shadows depending on localization, state lasts 9 seconds, and its cooldown is also 9 seconds. Basically, Nefer can stay in her empowered form almost permanently in rotation. Next, her Elemental Burst. It deals strong AoE Dendro damage, and that damage is further boosted by the level of the Veil of False Mysteries, or Veil of False Secrets, or localized variant. The higher the Veil level, the stronger the burst becomes. As the talent level increases, the percentage of damage tied to the Veil also increases at max level. The difference becomes quite noticeable. Thus, Nefer's power is built on the synergy between her elemental skill, charged attack, and the Veil of False Mysteries mechanic. By absorbing Dendro cores, she enhances her burst and consistently scales her damage. And with a short cooldown, she maintains momentum without breaks. Now, let's go over Nefer's passive talents, which reveal the core of her mechanics and enhance synergy between her skills. Passive 1 converts Standard Bloom into Lunar Bloom or Moon Bloom. It works similarly to Lauma's passive. For every 175 elemental mastery, Nefer gains 0.175% bonus damage. At high EM, this yields up to 14% bonus damage, which is quite significant. To fully unlock this effect, Nefer needs at least 800 elemental mastery. That's the baseline where the passive's bonus starts to scale meaningfully. Passive 2 activates if your team has 2 Nodcry characters. When using her elemental skill, Dendro cores and the Core of Abundance, or localized name, convert into Seeds of Falsehood. Here's the twist. These seeds don't trigger bloom or florification, nor do they explode. They just exist until Nefer absorbs them. When Nefer uses a charged attack, she absorbs nearby Seeds of Falsehood. Each seed gives 1 level of Veil of False Mysteries. You can get up to 3 levels by absorbing 3 seeds. Each Veil level increases the damage of her burst. At 3 levels, she also gains plus 100 elemental mastery for 8 seconds. Thanks to this passive, her burst becomes very powerful, especially in builds where she frequently absorbs cores. Passive 3 gives a constant bonus. For each point of EM beyond 500, Nefer gains 0.4%. Attack up to a maximum of 200. To get the full bonus, aim for 1000 elemental mastery. That's her optimal build threshold. The 4th passive is purely quality of life. It increases rewards from Nodcry expeditions by 25%, but only for 20-hour expeditions. It's a nice little bonus, nothing too impactful in combat, but useful over time. Let's move on to Nefer's constellations. As with many Dendro characters, not every constellation is equally useful, but a few significantly unlock her potential. First Constellation increases the base damage of Lunar Bloom by 60% of Nefer's elemental mastery. This effect also receives bonus scaling from the Veil of False Mysteries. It's a damage boost, but not a game changer. Consider it pleasant, but not essential. Second Constellation is a completely different beast. It significantly boosts DPS by increasing the duration of the Veil by 5 seconds, raising the max Veil levels to 5, and making the Chimera's play skill deal up to 150% extra damage. Also, when using the Elemental skill, Nefer immediately gains 2 levels of the Veil and temporarily boosts EM by 200 for 8 seconds instead of 100. That constellation adds tempo and stability if you get duplicates. C2 is among the best investments. Fourth Constellation is also strong. It speeds up green dew accumulation by 25% and reduces Dendro resistance of nearby enemies by 20%. It's a team buff that helps not just Nefer, but other Dendro allies in the party in some rotations. This bonus becomes noticeably effective. Sixth Constellation is her peak power. Upon activating Chimera's play, the second phase of the attack deals AoE Dendro damage equal to 85% of her elemental mastery. And if the team has at least 2 Nodcry characters, the damage of Lunar Bloom is further increased by 15%. That's what elevates Nefer into a full-fledged damage dealer capable of delivering massive output even in tight rotations. In short, C1 and C2 offer strong damage boosts, C4 offers support-style buffs, and C6 transforms her into a flagship carry. The others are supportive, or situational nice-to-have, but not mandatory. Now let's talk artifacts. This is where Nefer's potential is truly revealed. Your choices are limited but meaningful. Some sets stand out. The top set for her is Night of the Skies Unveiling. In some translations, it appears as Night of the Skies Opening or Night of the Celestial Unveiling. This set is especially powerful if your team has 2 Nodcry characters. It not only provides the needed elemental mastery, but also increases crit rate, helping simplify your stat balance. If you're running a full Dendro team, this set should be your #1 pick. If you don't yet have good pieces of that set, you can consider Hunter of the Twilight Court, but only under specific conditions. You must have Furina in the squad and a dedicated healer to trigger the set's fanfare effect. Without those, the bonuses won't fully activate. Even so, Hunter of Twilight Court is about 3% behind Night of the Skies Unveiling, a solid compromise. If that's also unavailable, you could rely on the tried and true Gilded Dreams. It's somewhat outdated, but usable early. You'll lose about 12% damage compared to the top set, but it's easier to farm and decent for starter builds. If you're early in Nefer's development and haven't got ideal sets, you can go for a patchwork build, for example 2 pieces of EM sets, 80 EM each, to at least hit key thresholds while gearing further. As for main stats, Sans Elemental Mastery, Goblet Elemental Mastery, Circlet crit rate or crit damage depending on which your build lacks. If you use her signature weapon, it's usually optimal to go crit rate on Circlet. With a weapon that already gives crit rate, choose crit damage instead. For substats, the priority remains Elemental Mastery crit rate crit damage attack. EM is especially important. Try to push it in your flower and feather artifacts. The goal? Hit at least 1000 Elemental Mastery to unlock all passive bonuses and fully realize Nefer's damage potential. Now to weapons. Here, the choices are a bit broader than they seem, but priorities are clear. Start with her signature catalyst, the best in slot option. It unveils the full potential of Lunar Bloom, adds ideal stats, and gives the highest damage gains. If you're planning to make Nefer the main carry, that signature catalyzer is your top pick. If you don't plan to pull for her signature weapon, there are good alternatives. Blackheart Lantern, a craftable weapon, is an excellent option. If you previously made it for Lauma, consider passing it to Nefer. Blackheart Lantern gives a strong bonus to Lunar Bloom damage and a respectable to 220 EM in its base stat. For Nefer, that's critical, since her scaling revolves around EM. Another option is Froststar, a newer catalyst from weapon banners. Think of it as a lighter version of Nefer's signature. It offers crit damage and via passive boosts EM after using charged attacks. It lags behind the signature weapon, but with enough refinements, the gap shrinks. If you get it early, you can absolutely use it and save your primo gems. Also consider Sacrificial Jade from the Battle Pass. Its awakened versions grow stronger, and the EM bonus makes it a good fallback. Its secondary stat is HP, which is less ideal for Nefer, but the primary benefit helps offset that weakness. Other possibilities include signature weapons like Setlali or Nahida's, both of which emphasize elemental mastery and synergize well in Dendro-centric teams. Comparing efficiencies, Blackheart Lantern craft sits near 100% baseline. Signature weapon is around plus 24% higher. Frostar trails slightly, but with refinement, it can approach Lantern's performance. Song of the Wanderer or Stranger's Ballad is around 97–98% on first refinement, but by refine 5 and with good EM, it might edge close to signature territory. The key is to tailor weapon to your playstyle. If your rotation leans heavily on charged attacks and maintaining the Veil, take the weapon that boosts EM. If you prefer crit stability, choose one with crit damage or rate. Let's look at team compositions where Nefer truly shines or falters if built wrong. Her mechanics revolve around Bloom, Dendro cores, and Nodcry synergies. A strong team is not just Dendro plus Hydro. Each member must support her core gameplay. First and foremost, Nefer wants Hydro characters. They trigger the reactions needed to generate cores that Nefer absorbs. Without Hydro support, most of her damage potential is lost. The most obvious and perhaps best pairing is Lauma. This duo boosts Nefer's total DPS by 20–25%. If you have Lauma, especially with C1 or more, slot her in and you'll see an instant improvement. If you don't have Lauma, a solid substitute is Ino. You'll lose some damage, but the team becomes more stable. Especially when Ino is at her C6, she bumps overall damage and durability. Ideal teams often look like Nefer plus Lauma plus Hydro support plus additional support. One good example, Nahida, for extra Dendro damage and consistent reaction triggers. Another is Farina, if you want to enhance fanfare mechanics and the team's burst output. If you prefer survivability, Beidou is a good fourth slot, shield plus healing support to maintain rotation safely. This choice trades a bit of DPS for consistency in longer fights. There are more experimental comps. For instance, Yelan can work with Nefer, but the DPS is lower. That's mainly because Nefer's core absorption strategy depends on charged attacks, so she triggers fewer cores with Yelan. With Yelan, you gain mobility but lose some raw output. As for Nilou at C0, she's not a good fit. Nilou's playstyle hinges on exploding Bud's Plome, whereas Nefer uses cores as a resource, preventing their detonation. So Nilou provides almost no benefit at C0. However, at C2, Nilou becomes valuable. She lowers enemy resistances, giving roughly 20% bonus damage to the team. In that case, she becomes a valid pick alongside Nefer. So, to sum up, Lauma ideal partner. Ino solid swap. Nahida, Farina, Beidou, excellent supports. Nefer struggles without a second Nodcry character. That's not just for her passive, but also for enabling the best artifact set bonuses. So if you're building her, aim for that balance. Hydra support plus Nodcry ally plus consistent support. And that's Nefer in a nutshell. A powerful, self-sufficient character with a unique mechanic that sets her apart among Dendro catalysts. She can flex between carry and damage support depending on how well your team's built. Just remember these core rules. Build at least 1,000 elemental mastery. Include 2 Nodcry characters. For Mize, have a Hydro companion to reliably generate cores close. With the right build, Nefer absolutely shines, outputting heavy damage, maintaining her Veil, and rarely losing momentum in fight cycles. If you already own Lauma, consider yourself halfway there. If not, don't worry. Nefer is flexible enough to perform well even without perfect conditions. Drop in the comments whether you're pulling for Nefer and which build you're planning. If you want more guide videos, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and drop a like to a video. As always, it's Lily. Thank you for watching and see you next time.